um, I just saw how it really impacted opportunities for me, and it's a horrible combination to want to be an actor and you have like a stutter or whatever, because your voice, your to being the communication of a performer is everything. Hey man,
Yes, sir. What's going on, brother?
man, Mr. Jimmy Marlow the fifth. Do you like do people say the fifth when they when
Yeah.
they when they say your name? Was it is it or is it just Jimmy Marlow? How do you
No, it's Jimmy Marlowe the
um
fifth. The fifth is definitely a thing.
okay, okay. Jimmy, thank you, brother, for having this conversation with me, because of just I've known you for years, but to see you grow as an anchor, as a host, just as a creative um, individual, a creative engineer, I'll say, kind of like, diving into some, you can do so much on the creative side. You as a Black man, you as a young man, as somebody who understands the vulnerability in life, um, and so many other things that we've discussed that caters to this project, Remember to Breathe in the Dark. I truly wanted to have this conversation with just a like-minded individual who does what you do, and you know, I'm excited to have a dialogue about the themes at hand and this project. So this is Beyond the Dark, man.
It is. Yes, yes. And I love the name. I love the name Beyond the Dark. And just what you even chose to name this project, which again for you is a huge part of recent history for you. Um, so yeah, Into the Dark, man, that hits home for a lot of us because we all have dark times and dark places that, we have to remember to breathe in. And that's such a hard hitting and it's such a just well crafted message to send to people. So first of all, um, fill us all in on where this project came from in your life and why you decided to make a film about it.
This project was purely a therapeutic process for me, and allowing me to go through a process and figure out my process in healing from losing my father, losing a parent. My father was one of the strongest men that I knew. Somebody who communicated, somebody who was very kind and sweet and very, very vulnerable, but strength in staying strong even in those hard moments. He would be the one at those funerals, encouraging my family and relatives and everybody to like, hey, keep your head up. They're in a better place now. I didn't see him cry. I didn't see him. I barely saw him in those really vulnerable states. And I think that's common for just young Black men, period. People of color, period. Because we have to push through all the challenges, push through without coming off of what's been, I guess, laid on us as what's weak or what's not strong. So for me, in the process of kind of having some kind of therapeutic process and is being with myself, because as a creative and as an actor, I wanted to make sure that however I think this out and I kind of get through this, it was allowing me to not only serve myself, but how can I serve other people? So film is I've been in, you know, this field since I was a teenager, and I love what I do. So I wanted to find how can I, you know, have, I guess, mix the process of this with what I do and allow it to, and film being one of the largest influential mediums, how can I combine that and make it something that is, and by the end of it, I had it, and I was like, this is has to be dedicated to people who also have experienced what I experienced. So I took two of the most insecure things about my life, insecure or maybe vulnerable things about my life. Right. So losing a parent makes me feel, it's like a deep feeling for me that I have to um, be in a certain space to truly discuss it. I think because of this film, I have worked through that, so I can be in any space to talk about it, because it's a common thing, and it's important that people know that we're not alone in that. But also having a speech impediment, something that me and my father both grew up with, stuttering, slurring my words, speaking fast. So I combined those two things. My father would always tell me, remember to breathe every day, because he knew if I was going to school, if I was about to talk to a group of people, he'd be like, hey boy, don't don't have that vein popping out your neck, you know? So he was always reminding me, we remember to breathe. And then I added in the dark, because it's in those dark moments of feeling like, how can I get to the light? How can I, you know, I miss my mom or my dad, or I'm stuck on this syllable or this consonant, and I feel ashamed or embarrassed or whatever it is. It's like, just remember to breathe. So that's why I did it, and that's I guess why it's becoming what it's become.
And in a 15-minute short film involving one person in one apartment, there are so many aspects of life and so many different messages that you touch on in the way that you wrote and produced and the way the movie was even shot. So, you know, I got a couple levels here that I kind of want to, you know, drill down to. But first, let's start with the actual film itself. Your character, Michael Cole, which I mean, we know in reality is you. Um, we see him at the computer, and that's where it becomes hard for him to express what it was that he was reading. Um, Talk about what those moments mean for you specifically, and those moments where it was really tough for him to read what was right in front of him, you know?
My dad always told me this story about how when he was in school growing up, the teacher knew he stuttered, and they would call on him on purpose to, you know, make fun of him basically, or just have him read when he knew that he couldn't get through it. It was, people make jokes and blah blah blah. So it was one of those things of, I knew that if, you know, at that, in that moment, he's in the dark. Like, this is it starts off in the dark, and it's the dark room where he's focusing on the mission. He's focusing on him needing to get out of the dark, right? Um, so it was just a moment to allow this person to do, but also kind of just step right into where he's at. He's in the dark. He has his problem. He's dealing with that.
Another thing that really immediately there's no introduction, there's no, you know, there's no arc to this. No, we go straight to the top of that arc where the tension lies in the, and you know, and traditional film writing. And we see that happen a few times. I think it was 3 separate times. He sits down and he's trying to literally, you can see him trying to make sense of what it is that he's talking about, which I feel like that's another reason that it was hard for him to say, is because, let alone the speech impediment, is this is actually, I'm actually saying these words right now. But something that really struck me was the power of music. There were 2 songs, the Jacksons, the ABC, ABC. Then we had I'm Sexy and I Know It. So the power of music, why did you choose to insert those moments where you and your character found not levity in the situation, but you found space to breathe, and you kind of see him reminisce on something that was attached to those songs? Why did you choose to use those songs? And he even danced. He even did the Jackson 5's dance at the same time.
So the music piece is very important to the speech community, because when you're singing, you're using the correct form of breathing. You're using your diaphragm, right? Usually, if you hear anyone stutter who stutters and they sing, they're not stuttering. It's flowing more smooth because it's putting them in that correct breathing flow from the diaphragm. So I wanted to put that into practice for him, where he's actually working on his speech. He's going through this journey of not only dealing with what he has to deal with, but he's tackling his biggest insecurity, which is his speech, to even do this thing. The choices behind the music was like, that's like 2 Easter egg, like personal Easter eggs. Like, my dad was the biggest Michael Jackson fan. Like, I grew up listening to Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, etc., like all day, every day. I'll be literally, and if the power ever went out from the weather, be on my like Walkman with or CD player or whatever with the Jackson 5, the Ultimate Collection playing. And then with Sexy and I Know It, that was a song that me and our family, my dad, that song came on TV. We was all just dancing around the house, you know? It was like this 2 moments of, you can just tell this guy is holding on to the memories of his father in those moments. And that's what it was for me, even in that process.
I felt that too. I definitely felt that, of course, you know, the movie, but, you know, you as a person too, because I also grew up, you know, listening to the Jacksons. Immediately, that's why I noticed, like, wow, that is the actual dance that the Jackson 5 does to that song. But in between those moments, back to the story arc of things, Pops keeps calling. Allow me to, you know, kind of guess as to why. Does that mean that Pops he's right there with you?
Is that your interpretation?
Yeah. Yeah. He's calling to let you know I'm still right here with you. What was the literal meaning behind that? Because it happened in each of the 3 tense moments.
So this is my favorite question to ask everyone who watches this, right? So that's the most interpretive piece of this film. Like, why do you think this phone is ringing, period? It tackles the question, are our loved ones here with us even when they're gone?
It's a very it's a very powerful way of you know, introducing that thought. Again, many layers to the way that this short film was produced, and, you know, just kudos to you for the number one, putting yourself into it the way you did, writing, producing, directing, and acting in a film that is so tangible and reality for you. That's not something that I think a lot of people would choose to do. And you know, to be able to carry it out, man, just again, kudos to you. Job extremely, extremely well done. So towards the very end, when Michael Cole is dressed in all black, that's when it hit me, number one, that that's what he was preparing for. The first time I watched it, I was like, okay. I was still kind of caught in the first couple of scenes. And then the second time I watched it, I mean, I watched it like 5, 6, 7 times. But the second time when I noticed that he was in all black is when I realized, okay, he's literally, wow, all of this was to prepare him because he was going to the funeral. And then dad calls that one last time. Michael had gone outside. He left his phone.
I love that part.
He left his phone and comes back, and dad's calling again. And that's when it goes dark. That's when we see the credits roll. Why did you choose to cut it like that? Why did we see the whole thing in the apartment? We didn't even need to go outside of Michael's apartment. And you stopped it right there where it's like, all right, no, this is it. This is what I needed you to know. Now you think on the rest of it.
And that's exactly what it is. It's like it's almost like with Christopher Nolan's like Inception, and leaving us with that top that's spinning. Yeah. You know, it's like what do you think this means? And for me personally, that was like a little fun thing at the end, because it's almost like my dad saying, like, "Hey, you forgetting about me, man? Don't forget me." And you know, I'm running back, and you know, so. But it was like after we are aware now that, or aware the way he's preparing for, has it clicked to us why the phone is ringing, and then with that last thing is like a little poke and for fun for me. So wherever that phone is in a way, is his way of communicating with me. You know, so how can I can't leave that. I can't leave him behind. And even in me moving forward now, it's like, it's almost like, don't forget him. Don't, like, I got to go back and make sure like I'm not forgetting him. He's always going to be there. And I got to remember what he taught me. I got to remember his reminder to remember to breathe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Again, in a movie that has 0 dialogue, one person, such a thought-provoking script. And man, what was going through your mind in the shower scene?
That was a scene that was just the relatable, real. We all had these moments. This whole piece is, I wanted it to feel like we're peeking into the private moments of a young man in his darkest like time. So even through all the work, even through all the pushing forward, we have those moments that are just breaking down and just like sitting in our feelings. And one of the biggest things for me that I wanted people to see, to feel in this film, especially men, is that we can be strong, vulnerable, emotional, all at the same time. So that was an emotional, vulnerable, from him being in the shower naked, him being, you know, just stripped of everything, and all he has is his thoughts, all he has is his feelings. This is a human moment, you know? So that's what that was for me.
Man, and so now you've kind of moved me to another part of the conversation where I wanted to go anyway. The topic of men and our okay, I'll use the term men battling against the Western philosophy of man, where we are told, like you said, don't be emotional. If you're emotional, hold it in. In terms of, you know, the hot button topic a lot of times nowadays is the idea of mental health.
Mhm.
How important is it? Because I feel like that is another huge, you know, underlying tone to this. How important is it for men, and specifically Black men, like you said, with all of the different layers of things that we have to battle with within our society? How important is it for us to focus on and be mindful of and take care of our emotional and mental stability?
Whatever any other community may hold that importance is just as important for us as well, because we also have families, romantic partners, friendships, business. You know, we're business owners, also employees, etc. So all of that, like that's just a human characteristic that we also have to take care of in order to go about our life, and with self-control, with, you know, um without feeling like we're giving or dumping so much held in onto other people, whether it's like our partners or even at work in moments where it's like, I can't take this, and blah, 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 because it's like you've been holding so much in because you feeling like I don't know who to express it to. I don't have a therapist. I don't have insurance or money for therapy or whatever the reason is. I think that the same way that we go to the gym to work out, the same way we take vacations to relax, the same way that we eat food for our stomach and our bodies, our brains need some form of health check. The same we go to, I guess, go to the doctor for a physical, you know, health check. Our brains, we have to make sure that we're doing the proper things and relaxing our brains and releasing the proper information or whatever, so that it's not wearing us down. And to where we don't know how to express ourselves. It's almost like how, you know, for lack of better examples, how a riot can be the voice of the like a way of the voiceless expresses themselves. If we don't take care of our mental health, we're going to express it in some, you know, some way that's violent maybe to others, or whatever it may be. It's going to be interpreted wrong from somebody, from anybody else, because they're not understanding what we go through, what we're individually going through. So yeah, it's extremely important for those reasons.
It's so important, man, to have people that you feel comfortable talking to about those things. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a topic that we could really dive into, but I
yeah.
definitely could see where that was a huge component and another message that was woven into this. So since we're on the subject,
And if I can put on that same thing there real quick, sorry, but it's like with, so, you know, stress and blood pressure, all that stuff is also things that we deal with in our community. So I think all that goes with mental health, you know, people's stress levels, people's blood pressure levels, outside of like dietary stuff, like it's also an addition to all of that, you know. So it's all different layers that are combined into this piece that it all connects in some way.
yeah, it all comes to a head, and we can see it and we can understand, because like you said, we dive straight into the darkness, and immediately that triggers whoever's watching. They're initially going to feel that anxiety, that pain, that, yeah, you took us straight there. You took us straight there, man. Um, so throughout the last few years, how has your process for dealing with stress and dealing with the anxieties of life, the pressures of life, How has your approach to that, as you handle yourself, how has that evolved?
Oh, I started to make sure I have like set hours for self-care. Like I'm somebody who's very intentional with like my relationships and friendships and work, and I can become like a workaholic to where I'm just, doing, giving. And I had to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and make sure that my cup is being full before I'm able to pour it out into everything that I'm doing. Um, so I started to make sure that I had self-care time, and then within that, like I also run. I run like a good, between 3 and 5 miles whenever I do run, at least 3 times a week. Um, I make sure I was meditating, and meditation for me can also be like actually like listening to whether like actual meditation sounds or beach sounds, or just not doing anything. It's really sitting with myself and contemplating with myself and my spirit and my body, um so that I can just stay connected. um Diet, I mean, all of that stuff for me was like a part of my self-care, like ways of making sure I'm taking care of myself if I'm going to be wanting and striving for so much in my life, and fulfilling the things that my father and I always talked about. And um, you know, making sure health wise and this and that, like blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. Just making sure just in general, like I was good. So um and I think we can get so caught up in this, especially the various artists and various people in within entertainment who are, freelancers, entrepreneurs, is like on this grind to, you know, keep hitting each milestone. We can get so caught up in the work that we forget about ourselves and taking care of ourselves so that we can keep going. So I wanted to make sure that that was a part of my schedule while I'm continue to keep going, that I'm taking care of myself.
Man, I'm right there with you. And it's
Yeah.
funny, every time, we talk now, that's the first question you always ask is, how are you? Not how are things going, literally, how are you?
Yeah.
So, you got me into, really thinking about that and taking care of myself. Cause like you said, I'm one of those folks that, I'm trying to get there. There's work to be done, you know,
Yeah.
it's good to be goal oriented and passionate about what we do, but you're so right, man. We got to take care of ourselves. So that's
Yeah.
huge. That's huge. Um, so let's go back in time now. Let's go back in time to young Myles. You kind of already touched on this topic a little bit, but for anyone
Mhm.
that's dealing out there, you even put it in the credits at the very end. For anyone that
Mhm.
is dealing with a speech impediment, remember to breathe. For anyone out
Mhm.
there that's listening or that's watching, and they may have one themselves or they may know a family member that is, trying to overcome a speech impediment, what was it like for you growing up as a kid, um, while having a speech impediment? What was that like?
It was tough. Um, you know, to be asked, huh? What you say? Repeat that? Or to have comments made, or just like laughs on the side, or people just kind of nodding when they don't even hear what you're saying, or the lack of patience, or you feeling insecure that, you know, luckily by the time I started to like work, had needing to work and get jobs, I had done theater for so long at that point, and taking voice and diction classes. So I had worked on my control of my diaphragm and everything. But there are people who have interviews and they're like, I don't know if I should let them even speak or let them know that I stutter because it may affect them hiring me. So many things is, one of the biggest things that always sticks with me is seeing like my friends' parents now. Like when I was younger, like my friends when I was younger, their parents now and be like, "Oh, is this the same Myles who used to stutter?" Like it's just people have their certain way of, you know, um, unfortunately, the same whatever they're thinking, and it impacts people. So it wasn't, but my parents had put me into like these different like I was being taken out of class in elementary school to kind of go into this like kind of speech therapy kind of class where just me and the person where I'm like breathing on spoons and reading stuff, and they're trying to work with me on my breathing and like my different like syllables and whatever else. So it was actually like work. And even with me at the same time, because I got my first agent at 13 and I started for acting, and I started to kind of go after auditions to feel like I remember going out for so many different like movies or films, and I was still growing at the time, but not being able to really like speak or say like a paragraph or a monologue because I was either slurring through it and it wasn't clear, or I just saw how it really impacted opportunities for me, and it's a horrible combination to want to be an actor and you have like a stutter or whatever, because your voice, the communication of a performer is everything. Like the control of your voice, the levels of your voice, to be in theater, looking up to people like James Earl Jones, who also stuttered, but he's one of the best speakers in the world, because we focus so much on those things that we have a problem with that sometimes we become even the best at it. Kendrick Lamar, and so many other people who claim that they have stuttered in their life, you know. So I always try to be inspired by other people who were, I still am, like I pay attention to someone's voice, and that's like one of the main things that sticks out to me, because my speech was such a insecurity every day.
So what would be the greatest message is remember to breathe in the dark. But day to day, when someone is visualizing people, as you said, nodding their head, but they have no idea what they said. When you see, people that may be saying something about you and it's not positive, but you can't exactly hear what it is, or someone that is, in that interview space and they're a little bit insecure. What's your message to those people on the day-to-day, as you said, work that it takes?
But exactly what that title says. Remember to breathe, even in those moments. Whenever I think about my father, all I can do is that breath releases so much feeling of feeling stuck. So in those moments, if people are feeling that way or in those situations, just breathe, because that's going to help you to move forward, to continue to do what you have to do so that doesn't happen again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like it's no real solution, but at the end of the day, the things that are causing the things that we consider our problems are our problems, and we have to be real with ourselves and find ways to handle it. And if breathing, for someone dealing with a speech impediment, and knowing how to properly take their time and breathe, use their diaphragm, enunciate, whatever it is, just slow down. If that's a part of us helping to solve our own problems, then that's a habit and a practice we have to do every day as well. And for me, that I can only speak about what worked for me, right? I don't know, there's no like, this is the cure. there is that. It's only about what can we do to help ourselves through our own personal problems. And for me, that's what it was for me. Theater, voice and diction, all the repetition, all the breathing, all that stuff is what has helped me. The inspiration of hearing other great speakers, all that has been what was work for me. So I can only speak to that. You know?
And man, you have mastered it a long time ago. Because when we met in college, bro, you were doing everything in theater. You were doing everything, everything. So again, for the longest, nobody would ever even know that you battled with a speech impediment. So that again, it's just hats off to the work and like you said, knowing yourself, and truly mastering it, man. So
but to that, in college, it's all outer perspective. You're seeing the results of that work, right? Like
yeah,
no one really knew in college. I was still taking advantage of those free speech communication therapy classes that people like this, that those grad students were like having therapy coaching sessions with students who have speech issues or whatever. My dad said, hey, just so you don't fall back into whatever habits, look into this, like take advantage of that. So I said, yeah. And so I was going there and I was reading. So I wanted to find out like what is it exactly is my speech problem. And I think it's this, but what is it from your professional opinion? What is it? And they let me know, and then they did exercises with me whenever I would go to help me not fall back into, those habits. So it was still even with me, like it's almost like even as an actor, you know, you have to keep working the muscle, you have to keep training, you have to keep being in classes, no matter what you're booking, no matter what you're working on, you know. At when Leonardo DiCaprio did The Aviator, he brought on his acting coach Larry Moss, and it's like people are like, after this nomination, like you still like you just get into getting coaching, or what it's like, when you have, again, when I'm aware of all that I'm wanting to do in my life, I have to make sure that I'm doing the work, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah.
That's a very pragmatic approach to dealing with personal issues. Um, Not allowing it to be an issue, but taking it apart, looking at the components of it, and figuring out, okay, what about this is not working? This is the part that I need to fix. Okay, this is what you and that therapist or the person that you were taking those classes with, you were fixing individual components of the issues that you were having. And again, that's a very mind-opening way of, it's a freeing way of looking at issues and problems that really takes the power out of, and the fear out of a lot of situations if we dumb it down to the simple components as much as we possibly can and get help with fixing whatever those issues are. um, yeah, that's a very powerful and pragmatic way of dealing with problems. Hmm.
That's being vulnerable right there. Like that's like facing and being vocal about it. And saying like, I have this, I'm done. I'm like, when we're able to be vulnerable, we're able to truly like acknowledge what an issue is and do the work to fix it. You know, I think that's the importance. Like what's cool about what I'm proud of this film, because it is, like you said, like so simple, but it is so layered in the importance of vulnerability, the importance of these two areas, the relatability with how many people go through both these things. Um, you know, so I thank you for all you said about it, but it is just this is a product of, you know, life experiences and vulnerability, really.
Yeah. And a huge part of the vulnerability that you have allowed us to share with you is also in the credits, to anyone that has lost a parent. Um, your message to folks that are coping and that are trying to, you know, make sense.
There's nothing I can say that's going to make that feeling go away. That's going to make, or, you know, that person come back. That's why I simply just say, remember to breathe. That's all you can do, is to keep that. Again, that breath is life, man. We take for granted breathing. So I don't feel it's my place to say anything right now, but leave it as what I said on that dedication card. You know, remember to breathe.
And that after this conversation, man, I've already, you know, been thinking to myself, you know, remember to breathe. And just, you know, my own personal situations. But now literally, and everything that we've talked about, the message is so strong, it's so powerful. Um, remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. That's huge. But before, you know, we wrap this up, I got to talk to you about the production and the cinematic and the film side of things, because that is a lot of work.
Yeah.
That is a labor of love. It takes so much attention to detail. You wrote, produced, directed, and were the actor in this film. What was it like for you, wearing all of those different hats at the same time for something that was so meaningful and has turned out to be so powerful?
No, thank you for that question. So I went to an art school for high school. I went, you know, the Cap School of the Arts in Atlanta, Georgia. I majored in theater and mass media, and I minored in visual arts. I've been in between acting gigs. I've also, for the past decade or so, been in production. I was at, you know, on different productions at Fox and NBC and Nickelodeon, and, you know, I've assisted some major producers as well. So this came at a time where I felt very comfortable knowing the process of production. Um, I wouldn't say that at that time you know, I've taken like a writing class by now, but at that time I wasn't the most aware of the structure of a script or et cetera. I know how it looks. I've been reading scripts for years. But the actual work and what a writer's expertise is, I wasn't there. So that's probably why it's so minimal. You know, but then directing wise, I had a great crew, man. You know, I had a really great I got my DP and AC came from AFI, and my AC was a director, studied directing. So he was giving me tips and everything on like what to kind of make sure, like the meanings behind the frames and everything, make sure I was aware of. Um, 'Cause you know, doing all of that wasn't like it wasn't for me a thing of oh, I want to be known as a writer, director, producer, or this and that. Like it was more so as this is my process. I have to do all these things. I'm the one who wrote it. I have to do. I have the vision. I have to like. Because the cool thing about having writing a script is you can write what's in your brain, putting it on paper, and then thinking that anybody else would read it and think the same thing is in your brain is tough, especially when it's so interpretive. There's so much space in it, like this film. I'm grateful that they saw it. They stayed like, oh, this is powerful. And so, but I knew even when we were shooting it, I knew the pacing. Like they were, I remember my DP was one day, he was like, you know, how long is this short? Because I was taking my time, but I wanted it to make sure it felt so human, that doing all of that for me was just a necessity. And I also learned how to edit in high school as well. So I edited this, you know, and you know.
Wow. I didn't know that you edited. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now editing, that's a whole different world. That's a whole different world. I come from the film and editing side. So again, hats off to you, man. Um, again, such a great short film, very minimal dialogue, but so many messages that were covered. And you accomplished, in my opinion, everything that you set out to do. You definitely brought us in. I felt like I was, you know, someone, like you said, peeking around the corner and like, oh man, what is he? He's really, yeah, he's having a hard time right now. I mean, everything was just, it really was spot on. And it gave the energy and it gave the feeling, production value wise, of like a high budget studio produced film. The way that you guys really nailed it. You really did.
Oh, thank you,
Um,
man.
so now that the movie is finished, it's been remastered, and we're sitting here, you know, we're, you know, in the dark here. How do you feel now? This was a part of your process of healing. How do you feel?
I mean, being real, like I had to remember I had to breathe like so often. So I feel that I can talk about it easier without getting as emotional. But because that feeling never goes away, man, like it's not gonna be easy for anybody to kind of just talk about it and act like it's all good. Like so, I feel grateful that I was given the amazing father and my amazing family that has influenced and raised me to be the man I am today, to do a project like this, to appreciate all that and listen to all that was given to me and the memories that I have that allowed me to put into this. Um, so, you know, I feel I feel great in that perspective. Um, but it's never easy. It's never easy thinking about how my mother still feels about losing her partner. It's never easy thinking about how, you know, how it's impacted my siblings. It's never easy thinking about how, you know, how it happened. It could have been prevented. It's never easy just thinking about all of that. It's really just with that, you just got to keep breathing. So I feel good. I'm blessed and I'm alive and you know I'm here. So that's all I can. How can I with that blessing, how can I continue to serve? How can I continue to keep working at what I do to make sure that I'm putting meaningful art into the world, representing meaningful characters, you know, the characters that uphold uphold like the characteristics that I believe in and I think that are important, um, that aren't stereotypical. This was something that was also like in even me as an actor, and it wasn't done for Hollywood really at all because it was really something that would just show like this is I have a vulnerable side. Like I'm being booked as all these aggressive and bullies and this and that at the in the beginning times of my career. This was the first project that allowed me to really say, this is who I am as an actor. This is who I am as a creative, as an adult. It's like I feel like I didn't take advantage of just creating since high school really or college. It's been a minute. So it was fun to really just kind of sink my teeth into something that was so personal so meaningful. And I knew it wasn't just for me, it was for so many other people, you know.
I appreciate the purpose-driven nature, and like you said, allowing us to see you. And vulnerability is something that we shun a lot in today's society. So for you to embrace, my God, I can't even imagine that type of situation, and to bring us all into it. Just thank you, man, because it is going to touch a lot of people. It definitely has moved me every time, because it's so tangible and it's so real. It's purposeful and it's real. And that's why Remember to Breathe is such a powerful message for anything that anybody is dealing with. And I feel like this conversation has opened us up to that idea that, just remember to breathe in the dark. So my hat's off to you, brother. My hat's off to you, job well done, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, brother. Again, I can't say enough. Thank you for the work that you're doing, the work that you've pushed through and have accomplished in your own life, so that we can be sitting here today to have this conversation. And just your openness and vulnerability to talk about this with me, and who you are in our conversation, our own, and individual personal conversations that we do have. I'm grateful. So thank you, sir. Yes, sir, Jimmy Marlow.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bro. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, bro. Thank y'all.